Hello, my name's Val and I'm 34 years old. My mom passed away when I was only 5 years old. My dad raised me for the next 7 years all by himself. When I was about 11, my dad told me that he was seeing someone. I was a child and I didn't really care much for it. When I turned 12, Dad introduced me to his girlfriend and told me that they were going to get married soon. The first thought that I had was that his girlfriend was really young. Dad introduced us to each other and told me that her name was Jody. I later found out that Jody was only 10 years older than me. I remember I was a little freaked out by such a short age gap between us, but I eventually stopped caring about it. Jody and I didn't have the best relationship. She was overbearing and she kept trying to be my mother. I tried to talk to my dad about it, but he thought that Jody was right. I didn't like it, and as soon as I turned 18, I moved out. Although I did move out, I still had a really good relationship with my dad. We would go out to get lunch every other weekend. I remember initially Dad would try to get me to involve Jody in my life, but when he saw I wasn't budging, he dropped it. Although he would tell me about how much he loved Jody in the hopes that I would come around to liking her because he loved her. I was doing pretty great in my life though. I managed to get a job at this reputed firm right out of college. I wasn't rich, nor was I living paycheck to paycheck. I was living comfortably. I had started saving right from the start, and in a couple of years I was doing amazingly. When I was 28, my dad got into a freak accident and ended up passing away. Dad's passing away was devastating for me. I couldn't believe that this was what my life had come to. The only family member I had was gone. I was a mess. I cried myself to sleep every night and I barely could function in the morning. I was lucky enough to get a week off of work to grieve. I wasn't the biggest fan of Jody, but I knew she loved my dad, so I made sure to check up on her regularly. The first time I met her, she looked normal. I didn't expect her to be wearing all black and mourning at home, but I did expect her to look a little worse for wear. I knew for a fact my eyes were very puffy and they had the darkest circles around them. My nose was red and my skin was splotchy from all the tears. Jody, on the other hand, looked like she was completely fine. Okay, I know this is coming off as judgmental, but I kind of hope to feel like I wasn't the only one grieving so hard for the man who was my world. But my suspicions went away after a little bit when I sat down with Jody to talk and she began to cry. We spoke for a while about how great my dad was and how the world feels empty without him. After that first visit, I started to visit Jody a lot more. We would have tea together and just talk about everything that we were feeling. I thought we were beginning to finally develop a connection. I was tired of her trying to replace the role of my mother, so it was nice to have talked to her as just her. One particular day, when we were talking, she suddenly burst into tears. I was alarmed because we weren't even talking about anything emotional. I got up from my seat and made my way over to her to let her cry into my shoulder. When she calmed down a bit, I asked her what was wrong. "Is everything okay? What's wrong?" I just got a letter from the bank." "Uh-oh, what did they say?" "You know how I have been super busy with taking care of your dad these past few months, along with taking care of all the medical expenses?" "Yeah, well, I haven't had much money to pay off our mortgage, which has now transferred to me. I don't even have a job. I'm going to be homeless." "Oh no, is that what the bank told you?" "Yeah, they've given me 4 months to pay off all my dues. Of course, along with the 4 months mortgage payments as well. I don't have that kind of money. Your dad didn't even leave me that much." "I know. It's okay." "No, it's not okay." "Calm down, Jody. I have some money in my savings. I can help you out." "Really? You do that for me?" Yeah, of course. You've become someone I've come to understand recently, and I value you a lot. Plus, Dad would have been happy with me for doing this for you. Thank you so much, Val. If I do help you with your payments, I have 2 conditions. Yeah? I can't rent a place and pay your mortgage. I will need to move in. Of course, honey. This house is yours, too. Great. Secondly, I can't keep paying off your mortgage. You need to find a job soon and start taking care of it. I can contribute half of it, but you'll still need to find a job. And over time, in the future, you'll need to pay me back too. I promise I will. I did feel sympathetic towards Jody. Going from being financially stable to desolate is a very big and scary change. I couldn't have imagined what kind of anxiety Jody must have been feeling because of it. But I had quite a good amount in my savings. If there was one thing my dad taught me, it was always to have a good amount of savings because you never know when hard times will fall. Over the next week, I contacted Jody's bank and got to working around the mortgage repayments and having the foreclosure nulled. Jody hadn't paid the mortgage in 4 months, so there was that along with late fees and pre-foreclosure fees. In total, it racked up to be about $12,000. I had it in my savings, but it did make a pretty large dent in it. Jody was super grateful that I managed to help curb the foreclosure. She went all out and prepared a feast for me to say thanks. I was glad to see that she was actually being grateful because the Jody I knew before would have acted a little entitled to my help. Although I did remind her that she needed to start job searching soon. She promised me that she had already started looking for jobs. I also moved in with Jody. It was pretty interesting to live with her again. Jody was a lot more demanding than I remembered her being, but I didn't mind that. She was just demanding that the house be spotless, although she did try to get me to be that way about my room too, but I put her in her place by telling her that my room was mine and I liked it the way it was. I respected her wanting the common areas to be clean, and so she should at least respect my wish for my room to be the way I want it to be. She gave in, and I suspected that was only because she knew that the reason she had a house to be demanding about was because of me. We did have tiny spats every once in a while, but for the most part, it was good to live with her. Slowly but surely, the weeks turned into months and the months into years. After a year passed, I began to be frustrated with Jody for not finding a job. She kept telling me she was searching for one, but I never saw any results. Hell, I didn't even hear her mention having an interview even once. I confronted her about it, and she got very defensive. Jody, I don't mean to be that way, but when are you going to get a job? Do you think I'm not trying? No, that's not what I meant. It's just been a year since you promised me, and I just need to have a definite time for how long I have to keep paying the mortgage. I don't know when it will happen, okay? Have you had any interviews so far? No, but I haven't been getting any responses. How about you apply for a part-time job at least? Ugh, no way. I'm trying to help you out here. I can't keep paying your mortgage, Jody. If it's that much of a hassle for you, then don't do it. I'll just be homeless. It's fine. Whatever. I'm sure your dad would have been happy to see me struggling like that. No, it's okay. I'll keep paying. But I'm telling you, I can't keep doing this. Yeah, and I'll find a job. Just give me some time. It didn't click at that time, but for Jody to use my dad as a way to appeal to me was kind of messed up. I diligently paid off the mortgage for a while after that too. Jody did become a lot more overbearing after that. She began to get annoyed about when I got back home and who I hung out with during weekends. It irked me, but at first I didn't say anything. When she got out of hand, I stood up for myself and put her in her place yet again. She would always quiet down, but I would sense her dislike for me after. She would go weeks without properly talking to me, and I would feel so icky when I saw her the way she used to be when my dad was still alive. Regardless, I still helped her out. Another year passed and I decided to put my foot down. I never saw Jody make an effort to start working. I know it's wrong, but one day when she was out, I went through her emails on her laptop that she had left unlocked on her bed. I found out that in the past 2 years she had only applied to one firm, and that was also right after I agreed to help her pay off the mortgage. I was angry and disgusted with her ability to lie to me. After I had been so accommodating and nice to her, all she was doing was taking advantage of me. So when she came back home that night, I told her that I was no longer going to help her out. Needless to say, Jody did not take that well. How can you do this to me? I've given you 2 years to figure your things out. You've refused every form of advice I've given you, and you haven't made any effort to actually get your life together. You really think I haven't been making any efforts? Jody, I know you aren't making any effort. You're just making false accusations. All right, then why don't you show me all the places you've applied to this year? That's an invasion of my privacy. Look, I'm glad that you and I have been able to develop a pretty good relationship in the past few years, and I'm glad that I have been able to help you out. But I need to start looking out for my future too. I have never wanted to own my own house, and I hate that I'm stuck paying for something that has never been part of my plan. Oh God, what am I going to do? Jody sobbed for a long while, and it did get to me. Although that night I left her there because I was still angry with her. I decided to do a little research to maybe help Jody out. I knew that I couldn't keep providing for her, so if there was any way she could keep herself afloat, I'd like to be able to help her find it. The next day, Jody refused to talk to me, but I asked her if she would just listen to me. I informed her that she should file for bankruptcy so she could get an extension on the loan payments and even get time off from paying it for about 5 years. Jody finally acknowledged me and asked me if I could help her out with filing the paperwork. Of course, I told her that I would help her, and we spent the next few weeks getting everything approved. Once Jody was free of her mortgage payments for the next 5 years, I told her that she still had to get back on her feet once again. Jody coldly told me that she had things under control now and asked me to move on. Well, that hurts. But I guess that was what happened when you stopped letting someone use you. I moved out within the next month and I was doing good once again. My finances were back on track. I was able to get a promotion at work about 2 years after I moved out from Jody's place, which allowed me to save even more money and even make some big investments. Jody and I barely kept in contact. She didn't make any effort to contact me, but I tried because at the end of the day, she was my dad's wife and he loved her dearly. I would ask her how she was doing, and if she managed to find another job, she would always speak coldly towards me and tell me to mind my business. Even though I was upset about her behavior initially, I just kind of let it go after a while. My life was going on pretty well until one day, about 5 months after Jody's bankruptcy period was done, Jody showed up at my door. Now, I was surprised because I did not expect her to be there. I hadn't spoken to her for the past few months. I had an inkling about what she wanted, so I prepared myself to stand my ground and tell her that I wasn't going to help her out in any way. I invited her in, and when I took a better look at her, she looked like an absolute mess. Her hair looked like a mess, she lost a lot of weight, and she looked like she hadn't slept in months. Things look like they're going really rough for you. Is everything okay? No, I'm struggling a lot. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, after you left, I sort of went down this whole spiral. At least when you were there, I wasn't fully alone, but after you left, I realized just how alone I was. I tried to reach out to you, but you always pushed me away. I know, and I'm so sorry for that. I didn't mean to push you away and be so hurtful. I was just angry with a lot of things. Like what? I was angry with myself for being so alone. I was angry with your dad for leaving me alone, and I was angry that I was struggling so much. I get that. It's been 5 years and I still haven't been able to find a job. I've just been so depressed. I've nearly exhausted all the money your dad left me, and my family is cutting off helping me too. I tried to explain to them how I've been feeling, but they simply won't understand. In fact, they won't even listen to me. Oh, Jody, I didn't know you were struggling this much. And I hate constantly coming back to you. You've done the most for me, but if there's any way... I was torn. On one hand, I had made up my mind to not help Jody, but on the other hand, this was a woman who was struggling. I knew firsthand what depression could do to someone. I empathized with her. Before I knew it, I was telling Jody that I would help her again. Jody cried in joy and thanked me profusely. I was happy that I could help her out. I understood what she was struggling with, and I was never someone to leave someone stranded when they were clearly suffering. The next week, I was once again at the bank figuring things out for Jody. Turns out this time she hadn't made her mortgage payments for 5 months. I wondered why she didn't get her mortgage readjusted and maybe just reduce the monthly payments, but I just rationalized it by thinking that she was suffering too much to think clearly. As I went over Jody's mortgage, I realized she only had about $75,000 left to pay off, including her late fees and all that, to fully be done with her mortgage. Now, in the past 5 years, I had saved a lot more money, and I definitely had that amount in my account. I checked with Jody if she'd just want me to pay off her mortgage, and over time, she could pay me, and she cried. She asked me if that would be possible, and when I said it would, she promised me that she would pay me back. I told her I would get her promise in writing within the next week and then pay her loan off. I don't know how she did it, but she convinced me to pay her loan first and then make the contract with her. After I settled her loan, I made my way over to her place. There was an unfamiliar car parked in the driveway. The front door was unlocked, and when I walked in, I heard Jody laughing loudly along with the sound of another man. When I walked into the living room, I saw Jody sitting on another man's lap with her arms around him. That made me feel icky. Just a week ago, she was telling me about how much she had loved my dad and how she would never be able to get over him. She told me that my dad would have been very proud of me, and in general, she kept bringing up my dad. Looking back, that was probably her way of emotionally blackmailing me into paying off her loan. When Jody realized I was standing there, she laughed and pointed at me while she spoke to her partner. "Darling, look, that's the girl I was telling you about. She's the daughter of the man from whom I got this house. I tricked her into paying it off, and now we can live here happily." "What? What are you talking about?" "Oh, don't tell me you're really that stupid. You really think I couldn't get a job?" "I knew you could, and that's exactly why I stopped paying for you the first time around." "Oh, right. I put on that whole act and got you to pay it off." "That was an act?" "Ugh, of course." "Did you even love my dad?" "You, God, no. I just needed the money because I did not want to work. I was tired of constantly being tired, so I married an older man with money. Man, I really hoped he'd live longer." "You are sick. I can't believe I helped you out for so long. I can't believe my dad fell for you. Do you even know how much he loved you?" Yeah, I don't care. Say what you want. At the end of the day, I own a house, and that's all I care about. Plus, I get to live with my boyfriend here." I stormed out of the house. I felt my tears running down my face, and I wanted nothing more than to hurt Jody. How could she do something as vile as this? I knew I couldn't let Jody win that easily. I knew just how to get her off of her high horse. You see, since I was transferring a large amount, my bank was holding the money for a day to give me the opportunity to cancel the transaction. Jody didn't know about this, and if she had actually been smart enough, she would have waited to reveal her grand scheme. I was grateful she was stupid. I really was. I called my bank and canceled the transaction. I then blocked Jody's number and blocked her from all of my socials. I made sure that there was no way for her to reach me. I knew it would take another month or so for her to realize that the mortgage payment was not done, so I decided to move as well. I was hurting, but at the same time, I was glad I was able to give Jody a taste of her own medicine. I hoped that she would face the worst consequences, and from what I found out later, Jody's house did get foreclosed. I heard from various mutual friends and connections that she's been couch surfing for a while now. Her boyfriend left her, and she has no income as yet. She tried to badmouth me, but quickly realized that no one was siding with her. In fact, a bunch of them reached out to me to check on how I was doing. I felt like I had vindicated my dad by denying her the opportunity to own his house. I've learned to never let anyone use my emotions to appeal to me. People are crappy and will never miss out on an opportunity to use you. I've learned to let go once I've already been burnt because people rarely ever change. In a way, I guess I'm grateful for this experience. I will continue to live happily, and I will honor my dad's memories without letting them influence anything I do. Thanks for listening.